Welcome everybody and thank you for joining me. So for those who might not be aware, I do a weekly roundup video where I discuss a bunch of different topics, usually topics that I did not have the time to talk about in my normal videos. Now this is a bit of a longer style video and it is just more of a discussion than actual Xbox news. I do not quote sources like I usually do on my normal Monday and Wednesday videos, but I still think that there are a few interesting things being discussed, so I wanted to break this longer format up into smaller highlight videos for certain topics, as I know not everyone wants to sit through 50 or 60 minute video. So if you enjoy these highlights, please feel free to check out the full episode, but let's just get into the actual video where I start off with Ubisoft Plus potentially coming to Xbox Game Pass. Now this is something that have been making the rounds for a couple of weeks now, maybe even for a couple of months. This is something that people just keep talking about. Now I just briefly want to speak on this, but this is also something that I'm a little bit reluctant about because there is just nothing to go off of. Now it is not totally impossible that this can happen. After EA joined Game Pass, they kind of open up the floodgates for everybody else. Apparently this has been a very profitable deal for them, which I totally believe. I do not think EA Origin, which is their subscription service, have many subscribers, but Xbox almost have 20 million people, and it just gives EA a lot more potential and money, especially with the way that EA make their games. They just have these very bad business practices in my opinion, where they will just fill all of their games with loot boxes and microtransactions. They can pretty much give their games away for free and they can still make hundreds of millions of dollars. So having the Xbox audience to play their games on Game Pass can be extremely profitable. Now don't get me wrong, EA does have some amazing games in their vault and I am really glad that they are on Game Pass. The point that I'm trying to make though in a very long and winded way is that Game Pass can be very lucrative, so I do understand why other companies might want to join. Ubisoft Plus makes perfect sense. I'm just not sure something like this will actually happen. I cannot say for sure, but there is just nothing to suggest that this is actually true outside of some random insiders that is saying that it is. None of those are trusted insiders that I follow like Tom Warren or Brad Sams or even Jeff Grubb. All of those people said nothing. Now it doesn't mean that there aren't other trusted sources out there as well. It just means that at this point I don't really see any type of real evidence to suggest that Ubisoft Plus might be making their way to Xbox Game Pass soon. Now I have seen some outlets that cover this, but typically what happens in these cases is that you have one outlet who decides to cover a rumor and then every other outlet just kind of copy them and also run with the story, and then before you know it there's just a bunch of people running with the story that is just not true. Now I'm not saying that this is not true, I'm just saying that there is nothing at the moment to suggest that it is happening. This goes back to what I said about rumors. Hung like a horse 6969 on Twitter said something random. It is just a slow news week and before you know it everybody else is just jumping on the story. But back to Ubisoft, the reason why I am a little bit more cautious about this specific rumor is because for those who might not know, Ubisoft Plus has signed a deal with Amazon Games. Now I'm not sure exactly the extent of this deal, but I do know that they have officially signed with them. For those who might not know what I'm talking about, Amazon has their own gaming thing going on for them. I think it is called Luna. Now I don't really know if this service is already out or if it's in the process of being released, but there is a game service on Amazon and Ubisoft did sign with them. Now again, I have no idea the details regarding this deal. It might not be an exclusive deal. Usually it is. If you take EA for example here, EA is on Game Pass now and I don't believe they can just decide to say, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna go over to Sony as well. For instance, if you look at Justice League was just released on HBO Max, they can't just now go over to Netflix. They are locked in and they are signed. Now again, Amazon deal, it might be completely different. I did hear that they have something similar to channels where they pick and choose which subscriptions that you want, but I do still believe that you have to be signed in order to be part of it. And I know for a fact that it was announced that Ubisoft will be joining Amazon, so that's the only reason why I'm a little bit cautious about this whole thing. Until I have more detail, I'm just going to be a little bit more skeptical. Now again, I want them to join. Why would you not? It's just more games. I would be more than happy to pay more for Game Pass if they join. I will even be willing to pay $20 or $25 for Game Pass with Ubisoft included. It will be totally worth it for me. It is just still a lot better than paying $70 per game. And I have been thinking about joining Ubisoft for a while now, but it is just on PC, at least as far as I know. Now I don't have a problem gaming on PC, I would just like to play certain games on my Xbox Series X instead of the PC. And that is also another reason why I think that I'm actually not too sure that Ubisoft will be joining Game Pass. Ubisoft Plus is only for PC players, and I just don't know whether we will see it on console. Then again, as I'm saying this, I also realized that EA Play was only on the PC and then they joined Game Pass, so I guess that point doesn't really make sense. But anyway, the bottom line here is that Ubisoft would be a great addition to Xbox Game Pass, and I would love to see them partner up. We already know that Xbox and Ubisoft have a great relationship. Leading up to the launch of the Xbox Series X, Assassin's Creed Valhalla was heavily promoted on the Xbox Series consoles, and I'm not really sure who helped out who there, because during that time Halo Infinite was just delayed and Xbox pretty much had nothing. They then partnered up with Ubisoft to promote the shit out of Valhalla. You would have sworn that was a completely exclusive Xbox game. Obviously, the irony out of that is that Valhalla ended up playing better on the PlayStation, but the point here is that there is a relationship between Xbox and Ubisoft, so I don't just want to dismiss the idea. As I have also said, this is something that I actually want. Game Pass is the home of some pretty awesome and amazing games, and there is just so many to play there, but having these type of services join them will just boost everything a lot more. Now I have also seen some indie developers speak out about this. They did share some concerns about Xbox Game Pass becoming too populated with games and then they just get drowned out. Now look, I'm all for indie games getting their shine. We have seen what a service like Game Pass can do for indie games. I saw a while back there was this article that got released where they spoke about games on Game Pass and the impact that the service have on those type of developers, especially these indie developers. And I do believe that the study found that because Game Pass have so many people, it just helped the indie developers to get discovered a lot more than they would normally be discovered. And I cannot remember the exact details of the findings, but it showed that people will be more open-minded to play a game if it is in front of them, and also by doing so other related games, they will consider those type of related games, I think, to a degree of 5 times more. And they're also 5 times more likely, I think, to go onto the Microsoft Store and pay for those games after they played it on Xbox Game Pass. I'm not exactly sure of the precise numbers, but I do believe it was an insane percentage of people who are just more likely to go onto the Microsoft Store and buy games. So the point is that there is just so much value for a game to be on Game Pass. Now, the thing that I can say when it comes to the indie developers who are a little bit more concerned about their games being drowned out, if your game is good enough, people will find it and play it. Again, I'm all for those indie type of developers to get the shine. Big games like Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, they don't need any type of push from Xbox. They are going to be fine on their own. They have all of the resources to promote their games. Indie games just don't have the budget to market their games, so sometimes they do get drowned out. But at the same time, I think there can be a balance. Services like Netflix do very well with more series and movies, so I think that Game Pass, it will be on that same level. Yes, with more bigger games, your game might not be so easily discovered, but those bigger games also bring in more people to the service to discover your game. Do you want 50 games on Game Pass with 5 million subscribers, or do you want 200 games with 50 million subscribers? The more people there is, the better it is for everyone, and unfortunately in this case you do need those big AAA games to sell your servers. No offense to Sony, but that is a big reason why their servers don't really work. It is because there are no true big games. Game Pass is also not just a pool of massive titles, but it is enough to get 20 million subscribers, and I think that says a lot about the value of what they offer. And for me personally, I do think that there are a lot of games that is just very appealing, and I had this discussion also yesterday with a person who said that for them Xbox just didn't have any good games on Game Pass, and for that I always say that Xbox does have good games, but it's just not for everyone, and that is also perfectly fine. The games that is on the service is just not for everyone. I've heard lots of people say like the sport games and the indie style of games, they just don't like those style of games, but there is also plenty of value for lots of people. But anyway, I'm going a little bit off topic here. The bottom line here is that Ubisoft Plus is a great service. There is plenty of games that I would love to play on the service, and I do think that they will be a great addition to Xbox Game Pass.